This talk will be on the first of the six paramitas, and I called this the giver, the receiver, and the giving. And the term paramita is Sanskrit or Pali. It's a Buddhist term, and it often is translated as perfection. So we could say the six perfections. It's described in some Buddhist commentaries as noble character qualities generally associated with enlightened beings. That description has a little bit of an effect of making me feel inadequate or that I need to strive to be something that I'm not. There's even, I think, in the history, and I don't want this to be a history talk, but in the history, I think there's even reference to later um, the teachings of the Paramitas were added to the scriptures in order to appeal to a broader interest in the needs of the lay community and to popularize the religion. So tonight we're going to talk about Dana Paramita, which is the perfection of generosity. In Buddhism and Zen, we have endless lists that honestly, and this is me being honest, can be overwhelming or daunting. We have three treasures, three pure precepts, three tenets, four bodhisattva vows, five noble truths, four noble truths, six paramitas, the Eightfold Path, the 10 grave precepts, and many, many more. And it's easy to be confused or to feel that we must memorize all this stuff and fully understand and integrate it into our lives as quickly as we can. I'd really encourage everyone not to do that. I've been around these concepts, these lists, if you will, many, many years, and I'm still learning about them and hopefully integrating them. And many of you, the same thing. These practices kind of seep in gradually over years of practice, if we approach them that way. If we approach them like a koan, for those of you doing koan practice, we don't do the whole Mumonkan at once. We do it one by one. So anytime a teacher, either live, in person, or in a book, let's say, breaks these down and deals with them one at a time, I really appreciate it. And Norman Fisher has done that, and I put this in the newsletter. This book, I've got my notes in front of me, so I don't know if you can see it. The World Could Be Otherwise by Norman Fisher is absolutely extraordinary, and it is a study of the six paramitas. And I love Norman Fisher to begin with, but his treatment of this is just really, really rich. And you could take, I don't know, we had a book group, and I think we took several months or more to go through this book, and it was rich for all of us, I think. One by one, like koans. And I said this before, but the term perfection can also be intimidating. I'm far from perfect, and don't necessarily anticipate that I ever will be. So these are practices, these are tools that we use to wake up, to forget our small self, and to appreciate our lives just as they are, or just as it is. And as such, we'll never, quote unquote, arrive or be finished. As we say, inexhaustible delusion, right? the 6 of these, and I won't read you the Pali names for them, I'll read them in English. The 6 of these perfections are generosity, ethical conduct, patience, joyful effort, meditation, and understanding. The last one is, you've heard the term Prajna Paramita. That's what that is. And as with some of these other lists, like the Eightfold Path or the precepts, each one of these has different perspectives that we can appreciate from kind of the the literal or the physical to a different one I'll refer to here in a minute. So in considering Dana Paramita, or the perfection of generosity, there's a passage from Norman Fisher's book that I think really frames this paramita. He says, someone once asked Tang Dynasty Master Baizhang why giving is the gateway to the Bodhisattva path. And Baizhang answered that it is because to practice giving is to practice letting go. The monk then said, well, what do we let go of? Baizhang said, you let go of narrow views. You let go of the idea that things are small and tight, graspable and possessible. I might add to that, we let go, to an extent, of the notion that this is mine and that is not. That's yours and it's not mine. Again, this is just my perspective, my view on this, but it seems to me at the core of this paramita is the question, or really the koan, who gives, who receives, and what is given. Norman suggests that meditation is the best way to cultivate the expansive attitude of generosity, in quotes. He suggests that we pay close attention to our thoughts and viewpoints, presumably as much or more off the cushion as on, and that we notice when we become pinched, or protective, or tight, or small, or fearful. In the traditional texts about Dana Paramita, 3 types of gifts are mentioned. The first type is material gifts, such as food, shelter, clothing, and money. We can understand that one. The second one is spiritual teachings and inspiration. And I think we can understand that one. But the one that really blows my mind is the third one. Type of gifts that can be given. The third one, fearlessness. How do I give fearlessness? Norman says, to give the gift of fearlessness is to give others the sense that they matter, that they are respected, cared for, and secure. This kind of giving of fearlessness does not suggest that there will not be pain, tragedy, suffering, illness, death. But rather, it recognizes the inevitability of those things fearlessly. How can I give that to somebody else? I think we are all very generous. But speaking for myself, I'm also very selfish, very stingy, and very protective. So for me, this is a forever practice, this generosity perfection. And I hope that there's times when I don't do this, but I wanted to ask myself, how often when I give to someone do I ever so subtly expect recognition or thanks? I manage my way around that sometimes, but I notice it when I've done something for somebody and I'm looking at my watch or I'm looking at my calendar and I haven't heard back. Thank you. Why do I need that? It seems that if we are truly practicing Dana Paramita, it surely is not a quid pro quo. We give and expect nothing in return. That in myself, the times I most notice being selfish and not generous are with my attention to others. I don't think one form of generosity is better than another, but uh, I experience this opportunity moment by moment to fully pay attention to whomever I am with and to listen deeply without thought or judgment and to validate the other person as a profound practice. I've failed epically at this more times than I could ever count. Thinking about what I'm going to say when I'm listening to somebody else. This is a wonderful aspect of counsel practice because we in counsel practice we train ourselves actually to do this, and it's wonderful to have it act on your life after. I have a background in political polemic and debate, and those practices surely do not lend easily to deep listening. You won't win the debate if you're not prepared. Excuse me. Plus, my stinginess and fearfulness come up when I'm with somebody or in a discussion and I make up without any validation whatsoever, without any facts, that they don't like me or that they're mad at me or they think poorly of me or something like that. And it's a trigger. I stop listening. Not always, but I noticed this in myself. This has improved, but it's still there. I still see it. I stop listening and I become defensive. I stop being generous. I stop being attentive. I stop being fearless. I am afraid. I defend, and then sometimes, when I'm my worst self, I parry and thrust. I attack. By that time, I have fully stopped practicing. Perhaps this fearlessness that Norman talks about is illuminated by the deepest interpretation. I mentioned earlier I was going to refer to this, and the most profound expression or experience of this Dana Paramita. Norman says, quote, "There is no gift, there is no giver, there is no recipient, so there is no generosity. These are empty concepts." That's really, really something to sit with and understand what does that mean? How does that manifest? How can that be true? In one perspective, in the physical or the literal perspective, this is not so apparent. When we provide a meal to someone in severe need, or we take in an unhoused family, or we donate to Oxfam or Doctors Without Borders, there clearly are giver and recipient. giving, and generosity. So what does he mean by this absolute perspective? This is how this and all the Paramitas can be worked with as koan. That's a beautiful one to work with just all by itself. There is no gift, there is no giver, there is no recipient, so there is no generosity. These are empty concepts. In our meditation or zazen, the deepest stillness and silence that we can experience, these are our pathway to understanding generosity of this kind. And once realized, of course, this does not imply that we don't give materially, spiritually, or by manifesting fearlessness, or by donating to Oxfam, or by giving our full attention to others. In fact, most likely it means that we do those more sincerely, more naturally. One of the things I really like about Norman's book, and anybody who's reading it, maybe when we talk later, if you have an experience of this, you can share. But he ends each section with practices, and I have a list here of just a few. Some are his, some are mine. So this list is suggested practices to cultivate generosity. Wipe down counters in the restroom after using it, the public restroom, or the one in your home, so the next person's experience is one of cleanliness. Intentionally smile at people, cashiers, strangers, the toll booth guy, the unhoused man at the corner. Ask others how they're doing. How's your family? Especially if you know a little bit about them. Show interest. Give that to them. Be generous to yourself. This is one that might provoke some conversation later. I don't know. Because generosity might seem that it's all Florence Nightingale and or Dorothy Day, and it's all, denying yourself in favor of others. Be generous to yourself. Each day, give yourself something to do that is healthy and life-affirming. Send friends and family cards or call them frequently. I have 3 adult kids and a very adult brother, and I set up a weekly 15, 20-minute Zoom call with each one of them. So every week we talk for 15, 20 minutes on Zoom. I love it. I love it. And here's another one to think about too. Sometimes when someone is having difficulty, it is not necessarily the most generous action to take to console or assure them of desirable outcomes or a happy ending. Your mere presence may be the best gift of all, allowing them to see life as it is. And then the last one listed here is you never know if people are going to have a lot of comments or not. Let's go to the top of the hour. And when we do, we need to give ourselves the gift of forgiveness and understanding. Maybe even saying it out loud. I know you had good intentions there, but you really messed that up, but you'll do better next time. In my view, Paramita practice is 3 tenets practice. I have a chance of understanding the conditions of my life and the life of others in the world when I practice non-knowing. And I will observe conditions within myself, others, and my world when I bear witness in stillness. And then I stand a chance of acting in a loving, generous way. So step by step, moment by moment, we have the opportunity to see when and where we hold back, how we restrict our generosity and withhold our love or our effort. Maybe Sandy pulls up and I know she has groceries. I'm watching basketball. I can convince myself that I didn't hear the car. Stingy, stingy, stingy. Through the practice of Dana Paramita, we can learn to let go, to open our hand, even just a little bit. Eve Marco said this last week. She said her favorite mudra is opening her hand. She said, you don't have to open it all the way. Just a little bit is good. And then we can give of ourselves to others. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it.